Good afternoon, everyone. Today is March 22nd, and the time is 12 p.m. Have the doors been cleared? Yes? Thank you. We're here today for our workshop meeting. Welcome. We have 4 items on our agenda. Per board protocol, I want to remind everyone that we have 4 minutes for our initial comments, 2 minutes for our follow-up, for 10 minutes total. Chairpersons is out today, but we'll be participating per board policy remotely. I don't know if he's on the phone at the moment. He may not be on this one. So I'll be running this meeting at the moment. So, Superintendent, are there any changes or anything necessary to the agenda right now?
No changes, sir.
Okay. Item number 1 is our audit consultation project proposal with Clerk Carnes. Welcome, Clerk Carnes. When you're ready, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
Microphone.
I need to come closer.
Mike,
No, see whether
hit
you
the
have
button.
the red light.
It is red.
Maybe move it a little bit closer you can.
How about now? Better? I said thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, school board members, and Ms. Dupuy-Bruno. Thank you for your time today. I'm here to reintroduce a concept that was brought forth to the prior school board about an audit consultation project. And today I have my spin on this audit consultation project for your review and consideration. I will briefly go through the presentation that I believe was part of your packet, and then we will end with any questions, comments, and concerns that you may have. And then I'll end my portion of today's program with some proposed next steps for your approval. Does that sound like a plan? All right. So you all know in my capacity, I'm Kevin Carnes, Clerk of Court and Comptroller. I serve as the ex officio county auditor per the Constitution and Florida statutes. And my scope of authority today means that I have full audit authority of the Board of County Commissioners, the Port Authority, and Clerk of Court operations. We have done audit consultations in the past with other entities that I'll go over in just a second. But I would like to offer my services to the board at a one-time, no-cost opportunity. And the partnership will give you all an independent perspective with a list of value-added recommendations on the school board's existing audit functions. So the past, we've done many of them. I've kind of highlighted 3 of our most recent accomplishments. We've done a transition audit with the Glades County Clerk of Court and Comptroller. We've done a transition audit for the State Attorney's Office. And we actually did not a performance audit, but we actually came in for the Supervisor of Elections and did a mini audit for them upon their request. So we have experience and knowledge in doing these services on an ad hoc basis, which is what I would be asking for your consideration today. So I wanted to reset on what an audit actually is and what it provides, because I hear a lot in the community about audits. We hear it at the municipal level, we hear it at the county level. I'm sure that you've heard it in your comments with your constituents and your staff. And so audits are frequently misunderstood, in my opinion. They are a tool that is built to provide transparency and enhance public trust, protect the taxpayer dollars, strengthen policies and procedures, and really give you value-added recommendations from an outsider's point of view. Frequently, people think about an audit and they think about the IRS audit and how that's a negative thing or experience that you have to go through. And I would challenge that point of view. I think audits are an opportunity to get an independent objections that there's no skin in the game for the person doing the audit. They're really just taking the opportunity to review what exists, comparing that to what should be, and then creating a plan, so to speak, on how you can level set and get to that level of equilibrium. So audits are an opportunity to have a fresh start. They're not a negative, they're not a bad thing. It's an opportunity to say, are things going well? And if they aren't, can we make some minor tweaks to get to the right path? So what I would be presenting today, and this is a lot of words on the screen, but I think it's important because we're doing a consultant project. I would not be serving as an auditor of the school board under this capacity that I'm in front of you today. I would be doing a consulting project which has a very finite perspective or view on what we would be providing for you today. And so you can read that, and if you have any questions, I'll take that. But I want to make sure that the community and you all know this isn't a broad stroke that I'm coming in and asking you for. I have a very tactical, finite objective that I'm hoping to provide you all. And so what that will allow us to do is see how that went, and then maybe build upon this relationship in future years. So my recommendation for you all is to perform a one-time consultation or audit of the Lee County School District Internal Audit Department policies, procedures, practices, and processes. So it's a really narrow scope, and what I'm hoping to do by that is take my staff's experience and knowledge and training and just compare that to what you have today. It may come back with a completely good bill of health, and we may have zero value-added recommendations and give you confidence in that, or we may come back and say, hey, based upon what exists today, we would like for you to consider these things. At the conclusion of that audit, we would follow our normal processes that we do for any other audit, and we would issue you a report. And that's what we believe to be value-added, independent and objective observations. And then you all are put into the driver's seat after that. My job as auditor would be done. You have the ability to accept the risks or the gaps within the report, or you can move towards, I don't want to say compliance, but you can move towards the recommendations. And we have a quarterly report process in place to make sure that we're actually making progress on the recommendations that are made. The last bullet there is the school district has the opportunity to move away from them. You can get our report and say, thank you for your services, clerk, but we have confidence in what we're doing today, and then you all can build your program how you envision it to be. So timing and costs are important because audits are meant to be reactive. They're meant to be a tool to build confidence and trust in a process. It's not a gotcha, and so those things take time. So the clerk has already done our 2023 audit plan. We publish that on our website every year. And so what this commitment would be is we would factor that into our 2024 plan with a consideration of it taking somewhere in the ballpark of 9 to 12 months. That is an estimate. If the auditor comes in and does their work and everything's matching up and they're not finding any issues or concerns, it could be super quick. Or if they're finding some things that require a lot more detail and a lot more analysis, it could go past 12 months. The time frame is really built out to make sure that we do this correctly and that we're not rushing this. This is something that the auditors are really They take importance. They take pride in their work. We're an accredited institution, and we don't want to jeopardize that in any way, shape, or form. And so I'd want the auditor to have the space to do things correctly and not forsake time as part of that. All costs of the audit review is anticipated to be personnel costs, which would be the cost of my audit staff that we would absorb completely by my office. So important considerations. This is, if you take nothing from my presentation today, this one is probably the most one that I would like for you to think about. Audits are not a weapon and they should not be viewed negatively. Internal auditing is independent and objective. I'm sure you've heard me say that a couple of times in my presentation already. And that third bullet is really the next key point about independence, and it's that myself, you all, and board staff are not part of this process. The auditor comes in and we give them the ability to make an independent assessment based upon what your policies, procedures, and practices are today. All they're doing, to summarize, is a mini gap analysis. They're really just saying this is what is, this is what should be, and then issuing you a report to line that up. And it's important to know that I have no say or influence in how an audit operates today or through this consulting project. I basically tee up the opportunity for my staff and the timing, and then they do their work when the work is started. I get to see the final report a day before they publish it, but that's just an accreditation requirement. I really don't have any material say in what they look for, what they find, or how they word it. It truly is an independent aspect, even from myself, and it's my staff that are doing the work. So next steps, it's in the mind frame that we're not going to do nothing based upon your your comments today. We will take a series of steps to get us closer to a 2024 audit plan. So today you have in front of you this presentation, I believe, and you also have a draft version of the MOU. We're actually not here to talk about the Memorandum of Understanding. That was just a draft for your attorney and superintendent to kind of get the legalities out of the way. But we would take next steps from today to work on that MOU and bring it forward to you for official vote at another meeting. But while that MOU is taking its legal path, we'll also do a statement of work. So we'll take the concept of an audit consultation project and really put that into words where we're all on the same page. We'll put it on a document where we kind of know where the audit starts and ends and what that looks like, so we're all on the same page going forward. And then as we get closer to quarter 3 and quarter 4 of this calendar year, there'll be some pre-engagement meetings. The auditor may start reaching out to learn. They may be visiting your website. They're going to be doing some things that are going to be invisible to you all, but just know that the audit has officially started and worked. You just won't see it until 2024. And so I hope that I can answer any of your questions or comments. I believe that this is a great need in our community, and it's an opportunity for all of us to build a great relationship going forward, and hopefully just gives you all as a new board health and confidence and trust in your audit abilities as we serve the citizens of Lee County. But I thank you for your time, and I'm available for your questions.
Thank you, Clerk Carnes. First up, anything from Mr. Superintendent?
Nothing at this time. I think the clerk's done an excellent job, as he always does, providing feedback from your one-on-ones that he had with all of you regarding the potential to use his services for the school district. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any questions or comments at this time? Ms. Jordan.
I have several. Thank you for being here today, but I guess and I know that you just made the statement about it's a great need in our community now and working with the new board members. That is a problem that I have, is the fact that I've been sitting on this board for 4 years. We've spoke about auditors multiple times, bringing in our own IG, doing all of that. Now we have a new board, and I understand, I hear the independence and all of that. I'm not involved, I'm this, I'm that. I personally have an issue with that because there is relationships, and that should never be when it comes to audit. I've spoken to multiple counties and got their feedback on this, and kind of got the same senses from them. And I guess to me, it's like, what is the why? And when we say there's no cost, there's always a cost involved in this. Somebody's paying that. So are you not busy enough with the county and everybody else that you're doing that you have that free time? Because when they came here 3 years ago, no, 2019 maybe, can't remember what year it was now, when Ms. Doggett was here. They came here before us, they could not do that. They did not have the manpower to assist us in this venture when we had to have a board auditor. And so listening to them speak on that made us understand that we had to go, look elsewhere, which we did, and that's when we came up with RSM as our auditor. And that's just a little bit of history for the people who were not here when this took place. So to me, I still, if we're looking at doing this, I think that at the level that we're at with our students, over 100,000, and the amount of staff we have, we do need to look at maybe bringing it in-house and having our own that we had talked about or mentioned it many years ago, and bringing that in and bringing the staff that is required to do this as the other larger counties, because we are a large county. And then that way they can work on, the internal, and RSM could actually do the external for us then. So I would not feel, at this moment in time, I do not feel comfortable with this, because what is the reason why all of a sudden, after going into 4.5 years, why does the county or the clerk now want to step in here And especially with all the nuance in education and everything that comes before us, that's a real, something that you really need to acquire and have that knowledge. You know, FERPA, everything that deals with that, where you don't have that. I don't think you deal with that right now when it comes to the county and the people that you audit at this moment.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Proceed.
Thank you, Board Member Jordan. I appreciate your comments. If I'm going to summarize the 3 points that you'd like me to address, it would be the relationships and the transparency, the cost, and the scope of the services. Do I have that correct? Your first item was related to relationships, and you were concerned about those relationships influencing the audit. And I sympathize with your comments, but I respectfully disagree. Relationships are the key to things going correctly. And so if I was going to give you an analogy on the relationships, think about my audit staff today and how we've audited the Board of County Commissioners for 20, 30, 40 years. Those relationships already exist. We've already audited them many times before. And so if you're concerned about the relationships, it's something that my internal audit staff are already trained and prepared to navigate as part of this process. If you are concerned about the relationships between the people of your board and myself, that is not part of the audit scope. As I mentioned in my slide before, none of us have any say or influence into what is audited or what they find or what they say. That is really defined by the auditor, who I can't even tell you who the auditor would be right now because that's how independent and objective it is. But I can assure you it would not probably be somebody that has a tie or conflict of interest with the school district. So I hope that that quells your concerns on the relationship. Number 2 was the cost. You're asking, I think you mentioned specifically that am I not busy enough to do that? Absolutely, Ms. Jordan, we are busy enough, but I do tune into your board meetings. I do talk to citizens throughout the county in my capacity as comptroller, and the Constitution says I'm the county auditor. And so I believe that I'm squarely in my authority doing this, listening to our citizens, our collective citizens, and saying that they've already paid for an auditing function. Their taxpayer dollars have already funded a certified inspector general department that already exists today. All we're doing is carving out a particular project for a future year. And so that's something that we've already done in the past. And so we do this already in our scope. We're just adding another element to that, which leads me to my last one, your scope. I agree with you. Auditing is about knowledge. It is about experience. But I'm not stepping into your operations with this objective. I'm committing to you that my audit staff will audit your audit functions, which is something that we're accredited by the Department of Defense and the Florida Inspector General Association. And so when you look at the scope, I'm not stepping into your operations and wondering what that may look like. I'm really taking your board policies, which I believe says that you should have your own internal auditor, and y'all have contracted that out to RSM, which is your prerogative as an independent board making decisions. But my commitment to you is the scope is just narrowly defined to your current and existing audit authority, and then having a team of trained experts coming in to give you value-added recommendations or a clean bill of health, for lack of a better word. So I hope that I've answered your 3 concerns.
Kind of.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Ms. Morgan.
Thank you, Clerk Carnes. So let me make sure I understand. There are 2 different audit functions in the district. One is the district audit function. The other is the board audit function. We're talking about the district audit function, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so this has nothing to do with RSM.
No, and I want to be transparent that I did look at your contract for RSM. I did look at your board policies from my seat as the elected official. I am by no means an auditor, but when I look at what my office provides to the Board of County Commissioners and the size and scope of our 2 entities, so to just put this into comparison, my office as county auditor audits the Board of County Commissioners, who have a $1.9 billion portfolio in totality. I believe that is similar to what you all support from a district. I think you're upwards of $2.1 billion or something close to that. And so when I look at what relationships exist today, and I mean that in a healthy way, your relationships with your internal auditor, your relationships with your external auditor, and compare that to what I'm able to do as an independent auditor for the county, they don't match. So for comparison, my office can do around 20 audits for the Board of County Commissioners. Your at least contract with RSM is specific to 4 functions. Now that's your external auditor, so I don't have any knowledge about what you're auditing on the internal side, but I look at that and say the taxpayers have already paid for an auditing function. We would be making a future commitment to doing that, and we would be seeing if there's any room for improvement. I can't make a statement on or an assumption on whether they will or will not. But all this would be doing is saying, from my perspective, as an outsider, supporting a portfolio similar to yours, I think we can do more, and I think our citizens deserve it.
Okay, so may I keep going, please? Thank you. So you selected the internal audit department, why?
Meaning through this audit consultation project. I chose that very strategically because if you all as a board are open to a stronger and stronger relationship with my office when it comes to auditing and fraud, waste, and abuse, I'm open to that conversation, but I'm not here to make that part of the scope. What I believe, why I chose internal audit first, was to build trust with something you already have. And so if you come in and everything's working well, then that's a clean bill of health for you all to know that things are going well, and then we can talk about what that looks like. You may continue your relationship with RSM. I think they probably do good work for you, and when I looked at their contract, they are focusing on some really complex things. Cybersecurity, your tax reporting, they're doing some big things. I think that's probably appropriate. But when it came to internal controls, internal policies, and those sorts of matters, my team kind of does this already for the Board of County Commissioners. So if we wanted to start with auditing, that's where we're already certified, that's where we're already trained. And so if we do that as a litmus test to what the future could look like, then we can come back, I'll come back in front of this board and say, are there other projects that you would like for the clerk to do in future years?
Okay, so basically what I hear you saying is this is sort of a beta test for the district on your ability to come in and audit functions within the district. So let me tell the board that about 5 years ago, we brought in a firm from Texas to do an operational audit. And as a result of that, I think their contract cost was somewhere in the order of about $70,000. As a result of that, we saved several $million. But that was a very superficial operational audit for efficiency and effectiveness of the practices used in our various departments. They recommended a deeper dive into particular areas. At the time, the board did not authorize them to come back and to continue to do those dives. Essentially, the gap we have right now is our internal audit department doesn't do that. It doesn't do forensic operational audits of our departments, and RSM isn't doing that either. And what I see essentially moving forward is we need to fill that gap. And so when I hear you present, I'm just telling the board that that's what I hear. So I think those are my questions. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, can I add something, please?
Go ahead.
I want to thank you, Board Member Jordan. I appreciate your perspective and the way that you summarized my comments. I appreciate that. I quickly wanted to go back to one of Ms. Jordan's comments about why now and the presentation that was put forth to the board in 2018 or 2019. And you had mentioned that the cost was too big. And so I believe that I've looked at that report, and what I believe that proposal was saying was what you would need to do if you were going to match the scope of services provided by my office. And so that was a dual lens proposal. It was saying if I do that, then it's going to be a bigger price tag. And that also means if you do it. And so I think the recommendation in 2019 was that you get a team of 11 internal auditors, give or take a few positions. And I'm not here to cast judgment on the prior clerk or the prior board. that was probably a decision for you all. But what I'm saying is that we can work for the future and identify what we have now and see if it works for us going forward.
If you quickly want to follow up, then Ms. Matrika is next.
Yeah, I just want to make a correction. I did not say anything about the money was too much. What I said was they stated that they could not do that. They did not have the manpower to do that. It had nothing to do with cost.
You are
I just
correct.
wanted to make that clear that I did not say that.
You are correct, Mr. Jordan.
Okay,
Ms.
thank you.
Jordan.
Go ahead, Ms. Patrica.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for your willingness to work with us. I will say that in more than 6 years on the board, it's not often that other electeds walk in here and say, hey, I'd like to work with you. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to extend our relationships beyond the school district so that we can have more transparency and more legitimacy amongst our colleagues across the county. So I appreciate that. My question for you is what relationship, if any, will you have with our audit committee? And perhaps to the superintendent through the chair, has this been presented to the audit committee? Will it be presented? And when will we receive their feedback, please?
At this time, I can answer that second question has not been provided to the audit committee. The way I've always worked with all of you is the information comes to you first. You would provide me then the direction as to how you would like me to share or work with this information.
And I will answer the first question, sharing Dr. Bernier's comments that as part of this proposal as it exists today, 0. But if that was the will of the board and the will of the superintendent, I would be glad to having those conversations.
Okay. All right, great. So my recollection, and I'm getting older every day, so my recollection might not be as crisp and clear as I would like it to be, but my recollection when the clerk came in front of us several years ago was, yes, they couldn't do it kind of because they didn't want to. That's my recollection. You don't have to respond to that. It would have been my desire for the clerk to be doing this all along. So to me, this is an absolute no-brainer, and you have my support.
Okay. Thank you, Board Member Patrica. I don't want to speak for Clerk Doggett and the audit team as it existed in that capacity. I will say that this is uncharted territory. I will be transparent that this is new for all of us. But in my heart of hearts, I believe this is the right thing to do for the citizens of Lee County. And so although it's new and it's undefined, I have trust in this board and I have trust in Dr. Bernier and Kathy Bruno, Attorney Bruno, to make sure that we do this in the right way. So although it can feel a little uncertain, I'm confident in the relationships of my team and the work that they do and the accreditations that we receive by building this out together and doing this in the right way. So thank you for your comments.
Sure, and the last thing I'll say is I have read some of the audits coming out of your office, both under you and before you, and the relationships do not impact the outcomes at all. I've seen some scathing audits, and despite really good relationships, if that makes sense. So I trust the objectivity and the transparency. Thank you. That's it.
Ms. Giovanelli?
Thank you. And back to some of the history, it was, we had to be state compliant, and we were trying to pick an auditor, and it was exclusive. We were looking at them exclusively versus having RSM, and we chose the RSM route. But it was because they said they would have to hire additional staff. I remember all that. But that was if they were our exclusive auditor, and I believe that's how we wound up with RSM. I still don't think RSM has been the perfect solution. I still think we need an in-house auditor person. I don't know. I would love to have that department, but I think I think baby steps and that's what we've been doing is very small steps. I see this as an investment. The trust in the community is probably one of the most important things for me personally, because we don't have that. And this is one step towards that. And I think that the community would be a little more comfortable when we have other eyes looking at what's going on at the district. And so I think one of the things that prompted this was this ongoing investigation that is continuing that you were privy to. So I think that is important, that to note that that's one of the reasons. I think we can always do better, and I think that working together is always better. I think there is a saying in that. But anyways, one of the other things that I thought was important is that we always have a room for improvement, and I think this is also helping with that. So I'm very open and excited about this opportunity and this partnership. Thank you.
Any other board comments or questions? Ms. Langford Fleming.
I was just going to say thank you very much for this and taking the time to explain all of this in a workshop, not just for us, but for the public to be able to view and understand what all of this entails. And I, like so many other people on the board today, talked about bridging the gap between our local officials, our local elected officials, and providing full transparency to the public. These are the public's taxpayer dollars, and it sounds like this would be this is, like somebody just said it, a no-brainer for me. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate the workshop. Thank you.
Any other questions and comments before I give mine? Okay. Thank you, Clerk Carnes. I'm going to use a euphemism from a March Madness right now. I think this is a layup for us. So, I mean, this is what we've heard. It's a win-win. I mean, it's coming in and helping our audit department, if there is any issues, to figure out if we need to change anything, to ensure public confidence. The big thing is public trust, and we've all talked about it on here. And like it or not, we have to rebuild public trust and confidence in this board. And I think this new board has done a great job of that. And I think that is number one. I mean, heck, to the taxpayers as well, everyone, we won't have to pay any additional taxpayer money. I think that right there, I think that's amazing with this. I think it's something that's necessary, and, like you said, Clerk, might come through and we won't have any issues. If we don't, it's always a step to improve and to get better, and I've heard that up here. So I think that's a win-win. In regards to Member Jordan, I know you had some concerns, but relationships, like I've heard, that's a good thing. This board as a whole has relationships we haven't had in the past, and I think we really need to be, it's helped us in the state, it'll help us local, and I think it's important to work together with, in this case, things like the clerk's office. The clerk's office has done a great job, I know personally, from within the court system as an attorney administrator in there, as well as for the county commissioners. So as I said, I think this is a layup. So for me, rebuild public trust and make sure we're doing better with that. And wherever it goes from that, we can see where it is. So I'm excited for this, and it's something I've been a proponent of, and I'm really appreciative of this presentation. Now I want to ask the board, is there anyone that is not comfortable in going forward with this at this moment? Are we ready to go? Okay, Ms. Jordan has been noted. Anyone else, if we want to take any next steps? I want to make sure that we are prepared enough information for Mr. Superintendent at this point and what he needs out of us.
Well, Superintendent can weigh in. I would tell you that I've received very clear direction from your comments today of how you'd like to proceed. So there's no need to do any type of polling or work with the board in that respect, and it would be inappropriate to poll. So I appreciate you always being very, very clear and focused on making sure I get the right direction. I think it's also important to tell you that Mike Gatewood was aware of the presentation. He is fairly new to our internal auditing department. He is, dare I say, excited about the opportunity to interact with an auditing firm, and I think it's really important to encourage what Clerk Carnes has said. The way Mike appreciates this and why he's excited about it is he does not see it as a weapon. He sees it as an opportunity for him as a leader of a new department to have someone as the new leader of the department. It's not a new department, my apologies. But as that new leader, to see what's working, what isn't working, and utilize an audit to then develop a plan for how to get better in the future. I do want to be clear for the public, internal audit is not what the board's internal audit tour does. Internal audit speaks directly to internal funds that are generated by our schools. Our gates at football games, our yearbooks, our caps and gown sales, all of that, I will dare I say, other cash that flows into a school building. The public dollars, the FTE money is tracked and audited very differently, and that's what RSM does on your behalf and mine. This would be looking at the other side of our schoolhouses and looking at those dollars that are collected for field trips and some of those other examples I gave to you in my previous statement. Excited about the opportunity to potentially move forward. We'll finalize an MOU with that, then we'll bring it forward to a board vote So there's no decision yet today other than to tell me to continue to work with the clerk and bring this to the finish line and then start setting up that process. Mr. Vice Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. One thing, when you were saying that, reminded me of one of the questions and comments up here. You know, just because we go down this path does not mean it's mutually exclusive to doing anything else with having a board auditor or anything else. This is part of the tools that we have. So, also one other question for the clerk. Any audits that you have been involved in, do you have any effect on the outcome of any audits within the clerk's office?
Zero.
Okay. Ms. Jordan, do you have a question?
My only question is, will this be brought to the audit committee?
At this time, I have not received direction from the board. That has not really been a topic of the discussion, other than the question was asked, and I said I've received no direction related to that.
Ms. Patrica?
I don't know that it's necessary at this point because it's completely outside of what the audit committee does. So I mean, if we were to move forward and expand our relationship, then I would think that the audit committee would weigh in. But at this point, the audit committee has nothing to do with our internal funds. So I'm not going to ask for that today.
I would agree with that assessment, Member Patrica, at this moment, unless there's any other desire up here. I think we're going to move on at this point. Oh, Mr. Superintendent.
As a non-voting member, though, I would offer the opinion that at least let me give the audit committee a heads up that this process is underway. And that'll be coming for a board vote, and that audits that do come out, sometimes we do share. For instance, we have a couple of audit reports coming out in the briefing on the 28th. Those results, I do suspect you'd want me to share with the audit committee because it helps shape their decision and guidance for you as to when RSM creates a larger list of audits. Their knowledge, they have to make an informed recommendation to you, so it's important for them to know what is occurring so that they don't double up or potentially even triple up on an audit, depending on what the Auditor General wants, the IG wants, and everybody else who comes to take a look at our books. So I can make sure that that happens, and we can get further direction when this comes to a vote at a board meeting.
Everyone good with that? Okay. Ms. Juvenelli?
I just have one question, and I'm not sure who to answer. We had an issue in the past with booster clubs and 501c3s, and when you mentioned yearbook and stuff like that, Dr. Bernier, this doesn't really touch that. I just want to be real clear, right?
From what the audit consultation that I'm putting forth for your consideration, correct, it would not.
Thank you. I just want to, I think, just publicly be clear of that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Clerk and Comptroller Carnes. I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you all for your time and consideration. I appreciate your ability to work forward with new challenges, new opportunities, and new projects. I would like to close with my office's vision and mission statement because I think it aligns perfectly with what I've heard from you all today. The clerk's office's vision is to be recognized as the premier model of exceptional government, and that I think dovetails really nicely into our mission statement, which is to preserve, protect, and maintain the public records, the public funds, and the public trust. And I think that this audit consultation project aligns perfectly with our vision and mission. I look forward to working with you, and if you have any questions, my contact information I believe you all have. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your workshop.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda is naming of middle school QQ. I believe that will be Mr. Spicker today.
We have it up? No. The first one.
Mr. Superintendent?
Based upon board policy and the work that you expect to occur when a new school building opens, we have been hard at work with the process for the naming of middle school QQ. You have Irma Lancaster, Rob Spicker, and Joey Restino, two members of our communication team, the leader of our communication team, another member of the communication team, and the principal of QQ, who's excited about the new name. So I will turn it over to Irma Lancaster and have her begin the presentation.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Bernier. Good afternoon, everyone. We're glad to be back to present the survey results and recommendation for the naming of middle school QQ. And we're excited that Dr. Joe Restino could join us this
You have your
afternoon.
microphone on, Ms. Lancaster?
I do.
Okay. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everybody. Let me just quickly tell you what we're going to run through this short presentation. We'll remind you quickly of the initial survey nominations. We'll update the timeline of where we're at and where we're going, show you the survey results as they came in, tell you the recommendation that's being made from that committee to you for the name of middle school QQ, and then talk also real briefly about what those next steps are going to be to make that the name of the school. So as the quick reminder, after the initial survey, these were the 6 finalists that we came to you a few weeks back and put out as a survey for our community to rank: Arthur Middle School, Central Lehigh Middle, Gerald Gould, Lee Ratner Middle, Lemuel Teal Middle School, and then Veterans Park Middle School. We created that survey, a ranking survey, right after your presentation at the briefing meeting on February 22nd. That survey was created, and a survey to rank those 6 in your order, 1 through 6, which was your favorite to least favorite, was deployed on February 23rd and was out for an entire week until March the 2nd. It went to students in the E-Zone. It went to students in particular that will attend middle school QQ. It was given to the committee to share with their friends or other groups that they may be associated with. It was submitted to all E-Zone families to give them an opportunity. It was on our social media. It was on our webpage, a banner right on the front during that week to direct you where you could vote. And it was in news releases to the media, so it was also broadcast in local media to get the word out about taking the survey. We received a total of 4,345 submissions during the week that survey was out. We brought that data in and we analyzed it on March the 3rd. And on March the 6th, we brought together our ad hoc committee, same group as before. This is a committee that includes members from community groups in Lehigh Acres, parents from students in the Lehigh community. The principal of the school was part of that committee for us. Their participation was voluntary. We solicited those groups from some of you and from groups that have helped us in the naming process in the past to come up with this recommendation. And I'll now turn it over to Dr. Restino to talk about the results as they came in.
Good afternoon. So after the voting taking place, Mr. Lemuel Teal received over 1,800 votes. That is actually almost double the second place votes. And it speaks very, very, very well to what I believe the philosophy of middle school QQ should be. I believe that Mr. Lemuel Teal had a massive hand in educating and empowering our youngsters for 38 years he was a teacher for. And that is the type of school culture that I aspire to have, is when students come in, adults, stakeholders, that they are empowered. That is, and so I am honored to say that after having this recommendation, we have chosen Mr. Lemuel Teal as Mr. Lemuel Teal Middle School.
So with the recommendation, the next steps, we finish up the workshop. We present it to you today. With your approval, it goes on to the agenda next week, your action meeting, March 28th, for a vote. Approval on that evening would then give Dr. Restino the ability to market his school with a name, continue to attract students, the teachers and staff, change signage and things like that, and he'll welcome students come August 2023. So it won't be that long till we'll have students at middle school QQ, maybe Lemuel Teal Middle School.
And I do want to take a few minutes to thank the committee members who participated in this process, as well as the members of the public who took time to respond to the survey. And now I'll turn it back to the superintendent.
Thank you, Ms. Lancaster. Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, I don't have any comments. Simply turn it over to any questions you may have of the committee before placing it on the agenda for the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Anyone have any questions or comments? Ms. Patrica, then followed by Ms. Jordan.
Principal Restino, I don't think that you need a name in order to build up excitement surrounding your school. I'm excited for the kids in the community you're going to serve, because the buzz you've already created is tremendously positive, and I'm grateful for your work. And you don't even have kids in your building yet, so Keep it up. Keep up the energy. We're excited for you. It's not often that I, as a board member, get to make a decision where the data matches the public comment in the boardroom. Usually the data is different from the few people that show up to talk about something, and this is just so easy. I mean, this is, the public and the data has put us in a position where making the right decision is very easy. So obviously I'm going to support the committee's recommendation. I appreciate your work.
Ms. Jordan?
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you again to my friend over here, Joe, and Dr. Racino. But I'm really excited for the family because the community and everyone has spoken about what they want the name to be. So congratulations on that.
Any other comments or questions? Ms. Juvenelli?
Thank you. I love and respect this process, so I'm very excited for the Teal family, and I hope that Mrs. Teal will be able to attend and christen the new school. One of the things that came up, though, in some of the communications from some of the Lehigh residents was the Lee Ratner and Gerald Gould, and something that I suggested that I would make a suggestion, and I think it's something to think about, and maybe a part of the process that can come out is the black box. Maybe the black box could be named after Lee Ratner or something like that. So I don't know if that's something that can go back to the committee and have a conversation. And I know the black box has, I'm not even sure if Gateway has a name. Do they have a name of their black box? But I mean, it's something still to show respect, because we do have respect for the names of the other names of the school. So I just thought I'd bring that up. Thank you.
Mr. Superintendent, real quick before Ms. Morgan.
No, I'm fine.
Oh, I thought you were, sorry. My apologies, Ms. Morgan, go ahead.
Oh, I never turned it off. My apologies. No, I think the process worked great, and I'm really pleased with the outcome. I just wanted to respond to something Ms. Giovanelli said. As far as naming rights, that's in policy, and that's part of fundraising. So essentially, this would not be an opportunity just to name a building. It involves the policy which governs naming rights in the schools. So I just wanted to bring that out. Thank you. That's my comment.
Any other questions and comments? Ms. Langford Fleming.
I just wanted to say congratulations once again to the Teal family, and I, even though I did not grow up here in Fort Myers, I've heard so many wonderful stories about the legacy he left in the classroom. I'm very excited for the school to have such great leadership at the helm, and I'm excited this process got to speed up just a hair, so you can pick up what mascot and colors you want, so you can start handing out those business cards. So thank you, and we're excited to see what's to come. So thank you.
Anybody else? I think the community has spoken on this. This is awesome. Looking forward to the school reopening in the fall. Great job to the committee. Great job to the communications team. And thank you as well to Dr. Racino. He has been out there and everywhere and recruiting left and right. So I appreciate that. So thanks, everyone. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up on the agenda is Head Start Governance and Eligibility Overview with Director Romo.
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, as Director Romo takes her seat and begins the presentation, this is a two-part presentation. It's also somewhat a compliance opportunity for you as a board. There are certain legalities that Ms. Romo will go over that are required by state statute to be reviewed with the board, but I will turn it over to Ms. Romo at this time for that presentation, and I look forward to my comments at the end and any questions you may have.
Good afternoon, board members, superintendent, and Attorney Dupuy Bruno. It's a pleasure to be here with you today to provide you with information regarding your role as our governing body of the Head Start grant. Let's start with why we are having this workshop today. Today's presentation is a requirement of the Head Start grant. The grant requires annual training to ensure that the governing body has an understanding of Head Start's leadership and governance structure and is informed on federal requirements to determine children eligible for the program. This grant serves 880 children, birth to 5, from low-income families. Children are accepted based on highest need. The Office of Head Start is an office of the Administration for Children and Families under the Department of Health and Human Services. You'll see here in its mission statement that Head Start promotes the school readiness of young children, and primarily we're focusing in on low-income families. We do this by enhancing their cognitive, social, and emotional development. On the next slide, you're going to hear more about how these 3 components of the mission statement are addressed through comprehensive services to children and families. Head Start programs support children's growth from birth to age 5 through comprehensive services that support early learning and development, health, and family well-being. Early learning services include individualized learning experiences. Through planned and spontaneous instruction, relationships with adults, and play, children grow in language, literacy, early math, and science concepts, as well as social emotional development. Children additionally receive health and developmental screenings and nutritious meals. We connect families with medical, dental, and mental health providers and services to ensure children's needs are being met. Head Start also supports the well-being of parents and families in achieving goals such as housing stability, continued education, and financial security. The program works to strengthen parent-child relationships and engagement in children's learning and development. In front of you on this slide is the Head Start Management Systems wheel. You can see that our focus is at the center on quality child and family outcomes. Encircling the children and families are the comprehensive services we provide. You'll notice among the services an acronym we refer to as ERSI, which stands for eligibility, recruitment, selection, enrollment, and attendance. Later in the presentation, you will be learning about the E that stands for eligibility. As the wheel expands out, you see in the light blue and gold circles 12 systems that drive our program management, planning, and oversight. But surrounding all of these systems, the outer rim, is leadership and governance. That is where this body comes in. This is where you support all of the efforts of our Head Start program. Your leadership and governance support continuous improvement of our program. This graphic depicts an ongoing cycle of planning, implementation, and evaluation. It promotes continuous quality improvement and allows us to work toward the achievement of positive outcomes for children and families. Many of the steps happen repeatedly throughout the cycle, and the cycle itself is repeated throughout the 5-year project period. The board participates in this cycle by approving the community assessment, the self-assessment, our grant applications, long-term goals, and by providing a board liaison who attends policy council, where much of our planning and design takes place. This Venn diagram shows how 3 leadership entities come together to jointly move this program forward. It is important that everyone working in these 3 areas knows their roles and responsibilities and how to work together to make decisions on behalf of the program. You can see here that you, as our governing body, are responsible for ensuring the fiscal and fiduciary success of the grant, as well as being a part of providing leadership and strategic direction. To assist you with your responsibilities of fiduciary and fiscal oversight, there are items available to keep you informed, such as communications from the Department of Health and Human Services, financial statements, the self and community assessments, and program reports. We depend on the board to approve grant applications and amendments, major policies and procedures, the self-assessment, operating budgets, and any corrective action plans. And now we're going to move into the second part of the workshop that Dr. Bernier referenced. This is going to be focused on determining child eligibility, which is a governing body training requirement that must occur within 180 days of seating a new board. Head Start wants to ensure that the governing body understands how children are deemed eligible, because there are a finite number of seats offered to the community, and families must meet federal eligibility requirements before being considered to participate in the program. Because Head Start's priority is to serve low-income children and families, eligibility determination begins at the time a family applies to our Head Start program. There are 4 categorical paths to eligibility. One of those paths is income at or below the poverty guidelines. A second path to eligibility is determining whether a family is receiving any type of public assistance, such as Social Security income, supplemental nutrition assistance, or temporary assistance for needy families. Homelessness and children in the foster care system are the last 2 pathways to eligibility. These 4 pathways ensure that the Head Start program is offered to families for which the program is intended. There's a clearly defined extensive process for determining federal eligibility for a child to participate in a Head Start program. Our staff are well trained to follow this process, and they must create an eligibility determination record. These records are required to be signed by the staff member who determined the eligibility and are monitored annually by the Office of Head Start to ensure federal compliance with this process. The Office of Head Start also requires that each grantee have written policies and procedures to address any intentional violations in determining a child's eligibility, and that these be included in today's training. Here locally, we rely on the Code of Ethics of the Education Profession of Florida, School Board Policy 5.26, Professional Standards, and School Board Policy 5.311, the Employee Investigation and Discipline Process to address any of these intentional types of occurrences. In conclusion, as a review of how your role as the governing body of the Head Start program fits into the overall management, you are the outer ring of that wheel that you saw, providing leadership and governance for all of our management systems. Although you have ultimate fiduciary and fiscal responsibility, it is a shared leadership structure which includes you, the governing body, the policy council, and the management staff that make a strong Head Start program. Part of the way you support continuous improvement of our program is through the board liaison who attends policy council meetings and is the go-to person for the council and staff. Through this cycle, you review and approve our goals, our self-assessment, our action plans. This has been an overview of our Head Start shared governance and leadership, but if you'd like more information on governing shared leadership and eligibility, the Head Start grant can provide that training. There are lots of resources available, seminars, webinars, and even on-site trainings that we can fund to send you to if you have interest. And if you do, you can reach out to me or reach out to our board liaison, Mrs. Langford Fleming, and we can arrange those things for you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Bernier.
I don't have any depth of comment except to thank Mary Grace Romo for the work that she's done since coming here from a former district. She walked into some situations regarding our parenting program, as well as some other situations where she's worked well. The hurricane has disrupted some of her work, no question about it, but I also want to put this in motion for us as we think about the refresh of the strategic plan. Head Start is part of the strategic plan. It was sort of an add-on, if I'm recalling correctly. I know a board member will correct me. It wasn't part of the original strategic plan. It was added later in the process, and I think we have to bring it into an integrated position within our refresh. So look forward to hearing your discussion and questions either for me or for Mary Grace Romo. Thank you.
Thank you. Board member comments or questions? Mrs. Morgan.
So following up on what Dr. Bernier just said, basically, we're talking about early childhood and the need of this district to get kids ready for school. So my question is, and thank you, Ms. Romo, I was the initial liaison when you came on board, and I could attest to how hard you have worked to get this program shaped up, and you've worked through some tough times. But you mentioned you have how many students? 858, something like that?
We have 880, that's 720 in the Head Start, which is 3 years old, 5. And then we have 88 in the Early Head Start program, which is birth to 3. And then we have 72 in our Early Head Start Child Care Partnership Grant, which is a partnership between Early Head Start and private providers in the community.
That's new, yes, that's great. So do we have a wait list?
We do have a wait list, and we are really happy to have a wait list because the last 2 years with COVID, that was not occurring. So we have, I believe the last time I looked, like 898 kids on a wait list, which is a healthy wait list and not unheard of in Head Start programs. But it also speaks to the fact that Head Start is a finite number of early childhood seats. So the need for expansion is there, and those are things we're definitely working on.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Comments, questions, board members, anyone else? Ms. Jordan?
I would just like to say as well, I've worked with Ms. Romo, and I just really appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
Ms. Langford Fleming?
Yes, I'm lucky enough to get to become the next liaison, so I appreciate my visit to this facility. It was wonderful, and I can assure you there are some very loving people that you have there, and they are working very hard. And you can tell in the hallways that the children love being there as well. So thank you. They did some really cool get to know you little activities with the staff that they showed us what they do with the new kids that come in. So that was exciting. But thank you, and thank you for all you're doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Romo. I really appreciate this presentation, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you, sir.
Next up on the agenda is agenda review of the March 28th, 2023 regular agenda.
Mr. Vice Chair and members of the board, at the time I left my office at about 3 minutes before noon. I had not received any particular questions regarding the agenda for the 28th. However, if you do have any questions, I'd be more than happy to take them now, or to provide an answer, or to take them now and get you an answer as quickly as possible.
Board members, questions or comments on the upcoming agenda? Okay, seeing none.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, for the public, let's explain a little bit why that happens. Because sometimes they'll fill that vacuum with whatever they want to fill it with. I want the public to know that there's a significant amount of time spent on the phone Thursdays and Fridays. There are direct reports every other week before a board meeting. Agendas are prepared for and reviewed with the board members individually. So I just want to make sure that the public has an understanding of that the work of a school board member is not just done at this dais. There's a lot of work behind the scenes, early evenings, late nights, and lots of phone calls back and forth as individuals with the superintendent. So thank you, board members, for your attention, and appreciate that opportunity for our public to understand how hard each and every one of you work.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for saying that. Thank you for answering questions on vacation as well. I appreciate that. So a lot does go into that. So next up on the agenda is good of the order and board comment. I will start on the opposite end with Ms. Morgan today.
Well, I didn't have any board comment today until I opened up one of those newsletters that we get about state function, and they were talking about the legislature. And they mentioned that someone brought forward a bill to pilot a year-long school schedule. And they mentioned that they would be piloting it with approximately 5 schools, and that they would be looking for a variety of demographics, urban, suburban, and rural. And my immediate thought was, well, we're all 3. I have no idea whether this is going to go through or not, but it passed the committee that it was in, and I forget because it was just a quick look before I came out here. It was unanimous. So that says there's support on both sides of the aisle, at least there. So anyway, I was just throwing it out there. I hope that we would throw our hat in the ring if something like that comes to fruition, because I do think we represent the future of public education in this country in terms of our demographics, and it would be a great opportunity for us to do that. Anyway, those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Next up, Ms. Langford Fleming.
I have none, thank you.
Ms. Jordan?
I just have one quick comment. I know today it seemed like we spoke a lot about relationships, and participating in the advisory board committees is part of that relationship for us as well. And I just want to make sure that we are attending those, because I've heard that some people have not been there, which I thought it was me, that I had to remember what committee I actually sat on. But I just think that if there's a need for us not to be at a meeting, like if I could not attend a meeting, I would certainly reach out to Ms. Thomas or Ms. Roman to fill that spot for us, because we need to make sure that we have someone there at all times. So that's my only comment, and I'm always available to assist any of you. If you ever have the need for me to sit in, I would gladly take that for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Ms. Patrica?
And just to piggyback off of that, there was some confusion recently about what committee I serve on or don't serve on or whatever. So can I put it on the superintendent's radar, please, through the chair, that when we do our committee assignments, again, I think we do them in June, if we could make sure that we're working very closely with board office staff to make sure that those processes are clear, so that staff understands. It's my understanding staff had to do quite a bit of work to find out that I was not a liaison to a certain committee. And I just want to make sure that whatever we do at this table is working for staff so that they're clear. And I'm putting that on your radar now because Ms. Jordan just brought it up. So
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patrica. Ms. Juvenelli?
I have none, other than I thank you, Ms. Morgan, for bringing up that possibility, because we've had these conversations about a year-round school, and I think that Lee County might really like that opportunity. And so I don't know what that looks like, so I'm curious myself. So thank you for bringing that up. And I have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Juvenelli. Comments for me, again, thank you likewise to Ms. Morgan for bringing that up. I appreciate you putting that on the radar for us. Ms. Dupree-Bruno.
I have none, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Superintendent.
I was going to have nothing, but I don't I was going to have nothing, but I don't know of any other time that I'll have really to address this. The first annual kickoff for our United Way campaign essentially will kick off when the Wednesday after spring break. We will be having the bake-off, kickoff, cook-off, kickoff, food. We're going to have food. And we hope that all of you will maybe find some time in your schedules to join us in the atrium during Wednesday as we kick off centrally, and then we'll be meeting with our liaison teams at our high schools, middles, and elementaries to get that information out to our employees as we look to help an organization that's been so helpful to us, not only in our 2 community sites at Franklin Park Elementary and Colonial Elementary, but also so helpful to us post-hurricane. So hopefully we are in a position where we can give back to that organization that gave so much to us. So please, if you can, come to the food event here in the central office.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I'm looking forward to the cheesecake.
I'm working on it.
We have a special board meeting at 1:45 today in this room. Seeing no other business to come before this board, this meeting is adjourned at 1:09 p.m. Thank you.